Welcome to the Narrowgate podcast. I'm Weston.
Huh? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you over the sound of my shirt. It's loud. I'm Logan. What's up?
It is actually so loud that the people that are not watching the video podcast can hear it.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about our listeners. It's a loud shirt. Who do we got today, Wes?
This is the Don Lawrence episode.
We love Don.
Don Lawrence is the chairman of the board of Narrowgate.
Yeah, and a great friend, and honestly, he's been such a kind, him and his wife, Kathy, have just been so kind to our family, and man, I have had so many amazing conversations just sitting around a dinner table with him, and I'm glad that we get to kind of peek into his life, his way of thinking a little bit, and share that with you guys. So, as always, if you want to know more about Narrowgate, you can check out our show notes, and I think you're going to enjoy this episode.
Hope you do.
I hope you do.
Don Lawrence.
Yes.
Welcome to the Narrowgate podcast.
Thank you.
We're going to start it off like we start all of them off.
Oh, yeah.
You get to answer a couple of questions. You've probably heard these questions before.
I have.
They are questions like, who are you and why are you here?
Man, it's a great question.
I agree.
Well, I'm going to say it. I'm going to just say it straight out. I am
Excuse me. Really
allergic.
God bless you.
Yeah. Here, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I am a follower of Christ. I'm here to love God and love people.
Come on, that's good.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Wait.
Oh, there's more.
But everything is in context, right?
Sure.
So, why am I here? I'm here as the chairman of the board of Narrowgate for the last 4 years, and here to open up the doors to questions, pull back the veil on what happens in those board meetings. Of course, this guy over here being an active board member now, the first Narrowgate student, or second, depending on if you count Blake Skurlock,
Okay.
to join the board of Narrowgate.
That's super
Currently
cool.
speaking of Colin Smith, our podcast producer and newest board member.
Thank you.
Which is interesting because now he's already been to a board meeting.
Oh, okay.
And I'd say he's seen how the sausage is made, but everybody was on their best behavior at that first meeting.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
Trying to
probably.
put their best foot forward.
Yeah, especially Bill.
Yeah.
He seemed very official, and I'm like, Bill, I know you did.
Right.
That's right.
Because Colin's the kind of guy that you need to be
You know, that
with.
didn't dawn on me. That is why he was on his best behavior.
Yeah, he was
We had-
acting like we got to move things along. I'm very political. I'm like, Bill, it's me. Man.
I gotta ask: does everybody? Does everyone have like a boardroom face or persona, and does everybody just kind of turn into something?
I don't think so.
Okay, I don't know why.
Do you guys wear
assumed that.
robes?
You can tell I haven't spent many times in
No,
boardrooms.
only the chairman.
Him either. No, him either.
Like, he does have this pretty sweet mallet.
Yeah.
It's like a
gavel?
Yeah, it's a gavel,
Yeah.
but it's like way too big.
You know,
Is it
it's
the one that
more
says
like a
Narrowgate on
croquet
it?
mallet.
It's like the wooden one that's got Narrowgate on
That's
it.
it.
Oh, yeah. No, they're huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I wield it too.
Good.
I mean, usually
As you should.
Usually, PJ Heimerman is sitting near me, and I love to. You know, he always has snacks around him, so I love to
Okay.
smash whatever he's eating.
So 4 years on the board. What got you there?
Well,
what got you in that seat?
actually, 8 years on the board.
Oh, okay.
4 years as the chairman
Awesome.
of the board, which really it doesn't. I mean, the chairman of the board on Narrowgate is really just the first among equals. Everybody's the same. Everybody's vote counts the same. I think maybe I'm just more the mouthpiece. I run the meetings,
Yeah.
conflict resolution on the board, exterior conflict handling, if that comes up, that type of thing.
Yeah, and without getting into too into the weeds on like the structure and
Yeah,
everything,
yeah.
What purpose? Because again, clearly because of our last two questions, we don't spend much time in boardrooms. So like for the uninitiated, like for a graduate listening, like, yeah, why does Narrowgate have a board? What is the board? What does it do? What's it there for?
Yeah, well, that is a good question because I think the Narrowgate board is unique compared to other boards that I've been a part of. We really have three functions. The first is strategic, what's happening with Narrowgate on a macro level, the directions it's going. The second is fiduciary, make sure that we're being good stewards of the funds, whether they're donations or earned revenue through the Narrowgate Artisans. And then the last is the most difficult, and that is continuity or succession planning. And specifically for the executive directors, Bill and Stacy. But also we get our hands in the executive level succession planning as well to make sure that the leadership pipeline that's recently been established, 2 years ago, whatever it was, to make sure that we're always cultivating the next level of leader in Narrowgate, both on the operational level, but especially on the executive leadership level, the executive director level.
Yeah, that kind of makes me wonder, even just those three reasons, direction, like that kind of macro level direction, the finances, and then the succession. Like, to me, that speaks to a group of people that gather up who believe that, like, this ministry and what God's doing through Narrowgate, like, it's got some legs to it. Like, this is going to last, if Lord willing, last beyond even us.
Right.
And so I don't know if I have a question attached to that. Just that's an observation. I mean, you get to sit in a really cool seat to kind of get that 30,000 foot view of what Narrowgate is and where it's going in the future. Did anything stick out to you as far as, like, man, I feel like even in 8 years, it's like y'all are pushing into new territory and covering new ground as far as who this ministry reaches and how.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because we actually, my wife, Kathy, and I, became involved with Narrowgate just from an external standpoint, looking in 19 years ago.
Yeah. Tell us about that. How did you get involved?
Well, and to that point, though, I remember Bill telling me 19 years ago, and this is when we were just friends. He and Stacy would come over to our house, and he was talking about succession planning then. Wow. I mean, imagine that. Narrowgate was just getting started, but an early board member, Bob Rogers, was talking to him at that time about succession planning. And Bill was like, well, we've just gotten started. I don't know about that, but that's how long that's been talked about. Wow. Or what we call if you get hit by a milk truck scenario, what happens, who's going to lead Narrowgate? And so I think it's wise they were talking about it then. The conversation now is more related to when Bill retires, if he ever retires. It's kind of a strange concept to think about. Yeah. Saying Bill Spencer in retirement at the same time, I think he's always going to be active and going. But yeah, so we first were aware of Narrowgate when we just moved to this area, and we're going to Grace Chapel for the first time. And of course, we were freaking out about Grace Chapel because we were raised very conservative, sit on your hands, never stand up, never speak out, and just get through church and get on to whatever you're doing. Well, Grace Chapel was very active, and people were raising their hands in the service. We were blown away by that. But once we got over that, I noticed we weren't entirely over it because we were sitting in the balcony because we were afraid a little bit. But we saw this group of hippies just laying it out for the Lord down front. And at the time, we had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, both boys. And it was God. I mean, I can't put it any other way, but I just felt compelled to go down and find out who that group was. And when I met Bill and Stacy and we heard what Narrowgate was, we thought, we need to be a part somehow. Don't know what it is. And so for the longest time, it had nothing to do with the students. I mean, we weren't even in the lodge at that point. It was more about being there for Bill and Stacy and just being friends with them and encouraging them and helping where we could and that. But over the years, as Narrowgate does, it kind of sucks you in. And I got to say, I've probably, as an individual, transformed myself or have been transformed by Narrowgate or being involved with Narrowgate or even peripherally more than I ever could have imagined. And at that time I was thinking we need Narrowgate for 40-year-olds, which I think is what I was at the time. Yeah. And you know what? Just by volunteering at Narrowgate and being around the guys and participating in things like this, you can't help but be transformed. Right?
Yeah.
So
I can't help but just point out, watching that group of Narrowgate students and just having that pull, that Holy Spirit kind of curiosity of like, what's that? Like, what's their deal? And I'm just, again, as a worship leader, I'm just struck of like, genuine worship. It is for the Lord. It's pointed to the Lord. It's, it's not for anybody else, but just to think of the witness that is.
Yeah.
That when hearts are just aimed at just adoring the Lord and worshiping him for who he is, that like the witness of that has an impact on other people. And that's really cool that like our Narrowgate students, even just being in that setting, being in a church setting, just and being recognized, it's, I don't know, it caused a wave in your life.
Well, loving God and loving people, right?
Yeah.
And you can apply that in every aspect of your life. I mean, what are we, 72 hours post-election now?
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who need loving right now.
I was curious. I was like, we could spin this episode into a bit of a political discussion. Introduce a little controversy, get those numbers up. On the reels. Colin's nodding his head. He knows what I'm talking about. But no, you're exactly right.
I mean, yeah, I've never been super political.
Yeah.
Myself and in my family, immediate family. Close friends. I've got friends and family members that voted for him and for her. And my biggest fear was this election to come along and it to be contentious or, be so close and be drawn out. I don't know if you guys remember what we went through. What was it, 20 years ago? With the Gore election and being
all
drawn,
the recounts.
All the recounts, the hanging chads, and good gracious, that was an awful time for this country for weeks and weeks and weeks as they tried to figure out what's going on. So praise God that this one was over with in a hurry.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as much entertainment as there is out there on some people being upset about it, when it's someone close to you, it just breaks your heart to see them so distraught over it. And I was just having a conversation with a family member that I love more than I love myself, and this person's very upset. And I just had to. I just said, you may not be okay right now, but you're going to be all right. And he said, "Are you dropping some jelly roll on me right now?"
Is that a jelly roll?
It is a jelly roll.
I wasn't aware. Okay.
What, you guys aren't into jelly roll?
I'm aware.
No.
Nope.
All right.
Don Lawrence approves of the jelly roll music.
When was the last time you listened to jelly roll?
I've never listened to
Yeah,
Jelly
not a
can't
single
say
time.
I ever
Okay.
have.
So
I mean, I appreciate the way that the grace of God has shined through his life.
Yeah.
But I don't know anything about him.
Oh, is he a believer? Is he?
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's
Oh
cool.
yeah. Now, like most of us, he doesn't always act that way.
I mean, yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, he's a professed believer.
Okay.
His last album, it just dropped, I'd say maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, called Beautifully Broken.
Yeah, but he has tattoos. He can't have tattoos.
on his face.
All right, let's judge a little bit.
Put a
And let me tell
tone.
you, when I first heard Jelly Roll, it was back before, it was when he was into hip hop, I think they call it. It's kind of a country rap type thing. And,
Hick hop? That's funny.
Hick hop, yeah. And
clever.
man, you guys need to get out more.
We all have young kids. We have no time.
Oh, that's true.
That's probably it.
Well, so check this out.
I will say you are very musically literate, though. I will let you go on, but that's in our friendship. You almost half the times we've sat down on a couch together, you're like, "Hey, listen to this."
Yeah.
And so that's something you always got in you, man. So
this
keep going.
is your homework assignment.
All right.
Listen to Beautifully Broken. All right. It's long. I mean, the guy is so prolific, and why he is another story, and I'll get to that in just a second.
Yeah.
But Beautifully Broken. Well, back to me first hearing Jelly Roll, I was like, yeah, this guy, face tats and trying to be a rapper and whatnot, and that's what he was doing. And he tells the story that he's from around here, I think Antioch or someplace
yeah.
close by. Spent 6 or 8 years in prison or in jail. But when he got out and started his rap, he and his producer went downtown Nashville to karaoke. And his producer said, get up there and do something. And so he picked out a song. He got up there and did a Bob Seger song and blew people away, blew his producer away. He came back to the table and his producer looked at him and said, why are we doing what we're doing? That's what you need to be doing. So now he did that. He shifted to more of a country rock type sound.
Yeah.
And this album, I'm not sure if it's number one, but it's on its way to being number one. It's blowing people away.
Actually, I can confirm that it is number one.
Oh,
all right.
That was a question in trivia last night.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not a big Jelly Roll fan. I listen to them.
yeah.
But I like all kinds of
Yeah,
music.
you listen to a lot of different stuff, don't you?
I really do. He has one song, Only Talk to God When I Need a Favor. Great song.
Okay. I was like, have I heard that before? I can't remember.
I think you
Spacing out on
probably
it.
have.
Yeah.
Son of a Sinner is another good one you might have heard. They get radio play, but
It is number one on Billboard 200.
Wow.
there you go.
There you go.
So listen to some Jelly Roll. So anyway,
Yeah.
back to the story. Are you dropping Jelly Roll on me? I said, I'm dropping truth on you.
Okay.
That's what I'm dropping on you. Jelly Roll just had to put it to music
Gotcha.
to make it a song. So, yeah, that's. I think we have an opportunity as followers of Christ to love on people during this time, and we've got some healing to do, and I think it's a target-rich environment for us to be doing that.
You mentioned earlier that just in your close relationship to Narrowgate and being around Narrowgate for as long as you have, that you experienced some life transformation almost just by osmosis, just by kind of being not having been a student, gone through the program. But can you talk about like what it's like for you being somebody who isn't of the right age or demographic that you can come through the program, but you can still experience some of the life transformation that the guys experience just by being associated with and being close to Narrowgate?
Yeah. And you'd think as much time as I've been around, I'd be more Narrowgate-ish. But I think, as you get older, I think a lot of people look back on their lives and they think, man, who was that guy? And I am embarrassed of who I was at times in my life. At the time I wasn't. I thought I was doing the right thing. But you look back and you think, wow, that was a different person right there. And hopefully in 10 years, I'll be saying I'm a different person than what I am now. I'm still around in 10 years. But I think witnessing young men come through the program broken and realizing they're beautifully broken and they're saved by grace, and to see what they do in life after they leave Narrowgate, whether it's joining the board or joining the military or going to college or whatever, it's really encouraging to think, well, maybe you had a small part to do with that behind the scenes. And it's self-reflective too. It's like, they're already way a better person than I've ever dreamed of being. So it's a little convicting at times too.
Yeah.
But my career was in sales, sales management and marketing, and entrepreneurship. So when you're doing all those things in the world, there are a lot of temptations, both temptations to be hard driven and anything for a buck and anything for the sale. And along the way, I learned, and I think it's from being a part of Narrowgate, and Bill has been a big influence on me, that the more you remove yourself from the equation and focus outwardly, focus on others, it can't help but affect you. And it's also makes you more successful when you get out of your own way. And I attribute that to being around Narrowgate and being around the fellows and being around, people like you, Weston, people like you. I've seen you change and grow in the 5 years that I've known you. Although
probably
we
even
did
less
meet
than that.
when you were a student.
Did we?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was racking my brain
cut your
about
album,
that.
that was right after you were a student, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
The worship album.
No.
Yeah,
Are you talking about the worship
I'm
one?
talking about the
Okay,
worship one.
sorry. I thought you were talking about the self-produced. Yeah, we don't have to talk about that one.
No.
Okay, so that
the
would have
worship
been
album.
Yeah, that would have been a handful of years after I was a student and kind of had my little wandering in the wilderness season and came back and was on staff, and that was the 10-year anniversary. So that was 10 years
10
ago.
years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, I was going to wait to kind of talk about this, but now I've done it. I've done it again. I've derailed my mind here. Yeah,
You have to do it.
I have to do what?
Derail your mind.
It's already happening. Can we cut this out?
No.
No.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
I had somewhere I was going with it. It hasn't happened in a while. Guys.
Maybe it's the shirt.
It's probably the shirt. It's really loud. It's really, I can feel it.
No,
I can,
man, I'm digging
like
it.
trying to keep my eyes up so I can't see it, but it's radiating its noise from underneath me.
Jelly Roll would like the shirt.
Yeah, dude, it's. Of course, I don't really remember much from like specifics from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But man, I'll just say it now that, of course, we got to know each other pretty well. This would have been close to 3 years ago now. My wife and I and our two boys were in Texas, and I got the call from Pastor Rob to come back out here and accept the worship director position at Grace Chapel. So we made the move, and I remember we were listening to a sermon that had been preached at Grace Chapel. It was about like bold and specific prayers, because we're looking at this transition going like, all right, we're supposed to sell our house in Texas and moved and in the Franklin area in like less than a month. God, how's it going to even possible? Like, where are we going to live when we get there? Like, we're just praying. All right, God, like we were praying for solutions, and it's like bold and specific prayers. All right, Lord, it'd be really great if we had like a free place to live while we figured all this out. And I mean, the next day I was standing in my little carport and I get a call. Hey, this is Don, and you called me and offered my family a place to live in your home, and this dude housed us for I don't know how many months. I mean, 4 to 6 months.
Yeah,
it was a good chunk of time. I mean,
Yeah.
for us to not just have like a house to land at, but like a home to live in.
That's cool.
And dude, your generosity towards
and to expand your
Yes.
family.
That's right. We will.
Logan, you're sick.
Our
Man.
third child is like colloquially nicknamed Lawrence.
Yeah, if she had been a boy, she would have been Lawrence.
If she was a boy, we would have changed that name hardcore. But yeah, we our family grew in that season.
Yeah.
How? What'd you do?
Oh, they adopted.
Yeah, Logan.
Yeah. Nope. Didn't adopt. Homebrewed.
It was a blessing to be able to bless you, and to see you bring the just your approach to worship, to see you move into a very tenuous situation to begin with, and how you guys handled it, and I mean, and then to watch from then to now. I think you continue to be transformed, and just thank you for what you do for the church.
Thanks, man. Well, it has been even when you were talking about, growing earlier, I'm like, yeah, I feel like God's grown me a lot in 3 years. You ever go through those seasons where you just look back, and it's like, ooh, I can look back to last week and go, oh, yeah, I think that was a different guy. But man, I think back to that month, especially that number of weeks that I was flying in and out, and I was without my families and here on the weekends. And I just have such fond memories of like late at night, standing around your kitchen, talking to you or Kathy or both of you guys. And it just, I'm just impressed that you guys, I mean, obviously you can lead a boardroom and you can lead this, large group of brilliant minds in this setting, but like you guys really shine connecting with people one-on-one. I mean, you guys care really well. You care
sometimes
deeply
we
about
care
people.
too much. I think,
Yeah,
but
is that so?
that's a slippery slope there.
Sure.
But we do care, and but I think that there again, that's a newer version of Don. You know, if you'd gone back years before that, it would have been, yeah, you guys can stay at the house. Here's the rent.
Yeah.
Here's how much you're going to pay for it.
Sure.
I'm serious. It would have been that approach, and that's a good example of. Now we you know, it's like, what do you need? Here it is. We just want to help anywhere we can, whether it's Narragate or the church or in the community, and you know, we still backslide. Everybody backslides.
Sure. But that's the thing that I feel like Narragate continually rubs off on people is when it started with this idea of like, what I have is not mine. It's the Lord's. And so like, yeah, whatever you need, I'm going to bless you with it because it's not mine.
That's right.
Like that's what we experienced in your home for that many months. I mean, that's what we experience here. And that's, you know, the more I hear, you know, you or Bill or a Narragate guy say it, the more it makes me like inch by inch want to do the same every day with my life.
Well, you also, let's be fair, you slopped our pigs.
That's true.
While you were there,
my
and
goodness,
that was a big
my
help.
boys had farm chores. Goodness gracious, my wife and my little boys with farm chores was like they got spoiled in that season, man. We'd love to have some pigs right now. We just don't have anywhere to put them.
But you know, you mentioned rubbing off on people, and
Yeah.
you know, and I said earlier, where's Narragate for the rest of us who aren't 18 to 25? Tying back to one of the roles of the board, which is strategic, right? And the whole Narragate Notes series, the books that Bill has been putting out, that kind of touches several of those areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can sit down the book of on the notes on the book of Ruth, for instance. First off, you can't read that book without reading it in Bill's voice,
Sure, yeah.
right? But it's the notes that he uses in his lessons when he teaches around Narragate. And the board felt really strongly because he did not want to do those books at all. There's a lot of work that goes into taking your raw notes and putting them into a format that's not palatable, but digestible by people who aren't going through Narragate. And I think he's done a fabulous job. He's had great editors to help him on that. Phil Stoner, who was the previous chairman, has been kind of the driving force behind that due to his great career in publishing. But that's a great example of both continuity, or not as much succession as much as it is continuity, and making sure that we capture some of his insight and the knowledge and the notes that'll live forever now, now that we have that done. And so we have 3 more books coming out. That's just cool. This year.
And I got to say that y'all did that in a really effective way. I mean, my wife's like currently leading a Tuesday morning Bible study at Grace for the women's ministry, and they're going through the book of Ruth.
That's
and like,
cool.
Of course, she's like,
She's using the book?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
great.
she's consuming it and kind of producing her own material, but very much so. And this is a cool thing because Bill says this all the time, and I think this is a great encouragement to people who don't think they have it to like study the Bible on their own. You know, Bill will be the first to tell you, it's like, yeah, man, the cool stuff that I've learned about, you know, history and context. It's like, here's Alfred Edersheim. Like, go read it. Here's the sources. Here's the guys that I've read. You can do this yourself. And then for my wife to be teaching this Bible study that's very much informed by his book. You know, I came into the kitchen one day and, you know, the study's going really well, but she was like, man, I've got this kind of imposter syndrome, you know, that I'm like, you know, this is his stuff and, you know, I'm delivering it. I'm like, and I told her exactly what Bill would have told her. I'm like, he would tell you he got this from someone else. And guess what? You can go do it too. And it empowers people to say, I'm not the guy. You know, like God is the source of truth. And yes, like we're all learning from someone else, and you can do this too. You don't look at the Bible and just go, oh, that's unattainable. Like I can't possibly, you know, get to Bill's level. But he would tell you, and I would tell my wife, and she would tell these women. It's like, you can actually learn to study yourself. And it's an empowering thing.
Sure it is. Just anecdotally, a friend of mine just recently who is working on her walk with the Lord, And she said, you know, every time I try to read the Bible, it pisses me off. Wait, can we say that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Pisses me off. And it's frustrating for people, especially if you don't know where to start. And she said, but this notes on the book of Ruth just takes all that away because it gives me something I can really grasp and then take it and go back to the Bible and it puts it in new perspective, puts it in a new context.
That's cool. Well, again, like even thinking about the books and the you said 3 that are
coming
upcoming?
out. Yeah.
Yeah. Even from, you know, maybe there's certain things you can't tell us. Maybe there's some ideas cooking that, you know, are too fresh to really talk about. But, you know, like when you think about the future of Narrowgate and what the board is working towards and what the ministries and, you know, the different umbrellas that we have, what the direction that it's all moving, is there anything specifically you're like excited about the future for?
Yeah, there is. Well, I mean, the fact that we just got a permanent home for Narrowgate artisans in Columbia. I mean, I think that's huge, and I think that's bigger than what we even realize right now, because not only do we have a permanent home for Narrowgate Coffee, Narrowgate Woodworks, and Narrowgate Leather, but we also have expansion area there, land in front of it, land around it, and there are several things that we're talking about that I probably shouldn't mention, but just your imagination can run wild on what you could do with that land right there in the heart of one of the fastest growing areas in Tennessee.
And really close to the college too. It's
Close to the
great
college.
spot.
Close to here, close to the lodge.
Yeah.
So we were, you know, we have just a radically generous individual who has helped us obtain that property, and can't thank that person and his wife enough for that. But because of that and because of his dedication, the future of Narrowgate could look a lot of different ways. But I think that's important, though. That's good because right now, for the first time, our earned revenues, money from those businesses, is on par with the donations that we get to keep the lodge running. And that's a major milestone in and of itself, because what we want to do is keep Narrowgate tuition free, right? And if we can kill several birds with one stone, that is giving guys a place to work, reach out into the community, and earn revenue to keep it tuition free, then that has to be a home run, right?
That's awesome.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I was reading the other day, and I was reading about the church at Ephesus, you know, the letters in Revelation, and he talks about, Jesus says to the church at Ephesus that, you know, he has all these things that they've done that he is proud of them for, you know, their works, their labor, their efforts, like they're doing a lot in his name. But the one thing that he has against them is that they've left their first love. And I think that can be an experience that happens in a lot of churches, right? You can, in ministry all over the place, you can get to the point where you're doing the tasks, you're making sure that the boxes are checked, you're putting in the hours, you're making sure that,
doing good things.
And it's all in the name of the Lord, and it's all for you know, they're all good intentions, but at the root of it, somewhere along the way, you forget about the reason why you're doing those things. You know, you're forgetting that you're not just doing work for God, but you're doing work with God, you know? And so I know that principle also applies here at the lodge. I imagine it's something that you have to balance on the board level too, especially with things that you're managing. You're not just managing the lodge and the students that are coming in and making sure that Narrowgate is what it always has been, you know, committed to doing, which is making disciples. But you've also got Narrowgate artisans, you've got new buildings, you got expansion, you got property, you got a lot of things, and especially factoring in you want to keep things tuition free. That involves making sure that we have money, making sure that there's money coming in. And so I imagine that even at the board level, maybe especially at the board level, there's always a temptation or a threat to forget about the why, which I believe, and I think you would agree, is the life transformation that occurs through relationship with Jesus. And could you maybe talk about that balance, and if there's like a way that you guys make sure that that's at the foundation of everything that you do?
Yeah, it's not hard. It's not hard when you see the effect that Narrowgate has on the young men coming through, and then the ripple effect they have when they go out. It's really easy to keep that at the core, right? But that is the job of the board. So when we look at these opportunities, and there have been a lot of different things more things that we've said no to than we've said yes to. And it all comes back to, are we remaining true to keeping it with a term we use all the time is one Narrowgate, that it's not Narrowgate, the student program, and then Narrowgate, the leather program. And it's all an expression of one Narrowgate. And so growing out of that expression, these young men go out into the world and you have to get a job. And you've probably heard Bill say, and I think he's quoting Rick Beatonbow on this, is people don't have to go to church, but they have to go to work. So Narrowgate Artisans teaches our young men and the young women that work there how to be champions for Christ, how to live your faith out in the workplace. So it all grows out of the core that is Narrowgate Lodge, right? And then when you go forth, go out into the world.
Yeah, I would imagine, that not just the way that Narrowgate is set up, it's like the evidence is there, that, man, every 2 months, 1 month that we get new students,
Every other month. Yeah.
every other month, a new batch of students, a new batch kind of graduating and getting it out, like life transformation happening all throughout that process. It's like anytime you guys choose to check in, it's like, oh yeah, there's the evidence. God is working. God is changing lives. And yeah, man, that's really, well, especially in some of the new stuff you're doing, the excitement of like, getting the new property for artisans off the ground. It's like, I don't know. I can imagine that if you pay attention, the reason behind everything's kind of all around you guys, which is exciting. That wasn't really no, that's fine. We'll leave that there. Yeah. What have I
think the whole election thing has you upset.
It really does. I won't go into detail on that.
RFK.
That made me sound a certain way.
RFK.
What?
RFK.
Yeah, he's a nut job, but I like him.
Let down.
I like him.
Did you see that picture of the the director of the Department of Health in 2020, and then the director of the Department of Health in 2025? It's like in 2020, it's this lady, and she's kind of like, we'll probably have to cut this, but just like she's kind of like frumpy looking and like doesn't look like she'd be like the model of good health. And she's like,
Wasn't it?
and
Isn't it a trans person?
I don't, maybe I
It was
don't
a
know.
trans person. Yeah, that was a dude, bro. You're like, yeah, that frumpy looking lady. That was a dude.
No way.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
the
he probably
military,
took that,
the
he
military
probably
one.
took that as a compliment.
Wasn't it like a military admiral who became like the health?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was a dude. We are going to cut this, right? Ah, crap.
Well, then the 2025 picture is
Mike.
is RFK, and he's like got his shirt off and he's pretty shredded.
Who would you trust with your health? Yeah.
Dude, I would trust RFK with my health.
Dude, tell us about Glory Farms, man. What's Glory Farms?
Glory Farm.
Where's the website?
Glory.farm.
There you go.
All right.
Do you have an
you can put it on
Instagram
the screen.
for it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Point and
We
you
got
put it right up there.
glory.farm.
Glory.farm.
For all your farming needs.
So this for no.
He's like, no, there's lots of farming needs. We do something like that.
If you want really tasty, healthy heritage pork, pasture and wood raised, the best pork you'll ever have. Meishan is the type of pig it is, which, believe it or not, is the oldest known livestock.
Really?
It's been documented. Yeah, 5,000-year-old breed
Wow.
from China, and cool pigs. But more importantly, they're delicious.
Yeah.
And more importantly, they're healthy for you too. Their fat is actually good for you.
Cool.
And that's our story. We're sticking to it.
So what? So who buys those pigs? That's probably the easiest way to ask that question.
Yeah, we so I mentioned regenerative farming. So this farm, this land that we bought has had a very colorful history. Going way back, it was known for raising grains and distilling moonshine. The Kelly family was its lineage. From there, it went to tobacco. From there, it went, because it became bad to grow tobacco because it's unhealthy, they moved it to blueberries. From there, the previous owner apparently decided he would do good in the community by providing pot for everybody.
Okay.
Actually, to be fair, he's an epidemiologist, and he truly did have some health issues and started growing weed for himself. But then he had such a big heart, he wanted to grow it for others who were suffering, AIDS patients, cancer patients. MDs were actually sending people to him to get their marijuana, right? Government didn't see it that way.
Yeah.
And the 600 or 800 plants that they pulled off that. So this property has had a colorful past. And so when we bought it, we thought, okay, first off, scour the land because we don't want to get in trouble for whatever has happened here before. But our passion has been healthy living, healthy food, GMO-free food, and regenerative farming. It all goes back to the soil and having healthy soil. And RFK Jr. will tell you all about that. That's why we were thrilled to see him being part of this. And so what we're doing is moving that farm more to a regenerative farm, not just a monocrop farm that just rapes the soil every year, but complementary plants that actually creates an environment that we call it, the front area we call common ground. Because what we envision is to be able to have folks come out from all different walks of life and come to Glory Farm, to the common ground, and find what we have in common. And what we have in common is we love food, right? And we want to be healthy. And so what we're doing with these pigs, this is part of it to answer your question, who buys the pigs? We're actually cooking them out there on the farm. So we're creating a farm club. You can join at glory.farm.
There's the plug.
And for that, you'll have the ability to come out and enjoy this past Saturday night. We had 50 people out on the farm where we did a whole hog roast and live fire cooking. We had a celebrity chef come in, Chef Tyler Brown, and it was a wine and swine event. And so we had a sommelier there who was serving wine, and it was a diverse group of people, but they all agreed it was great food. We had some live music. So that's kind of our vision for it, to
That's awesome.
capitalize on the movement towards regenerative farming and healthy food.
Tell you what, I mean, gathering around a table, Jesus did it. He was on to something.
That's right.
Man, if you're talking about loving on people and making relationship and pointing them towards Jesus, there's no better place to do it.
Someone brought up at that dinner, they said, have you ever thought of having a gospel brunch?
Is that a specific? It sounds like a thing.
Tell me more about that. Is that a thing? And they said, well, no, it's just sounds cool that, even if you did it on a Sunday morning and invited people in, because not everybody likes to go to church, as we've established. Yeah. But you bring them out and maybe roast a leg of lamb on this big pit that we have, and have Logan Pringle out there leading the worship service at the same time. Of course, you have to take time off from your real gig.
No, I'll make it work if there's food. Yeah, if there's food, I'll take
maybe we can broadcast you in. What do you call it? Simulcast?
Yeah,
you in,
sure.
Put you up on a screen there, and
that'd be cool.
Come an outpost. Yeah, so that's kind of our vision. Glory.farm.
That's awesome.
You want to talk politics? A good friend of mine, and you can decide whether or not to keep this in or out, but I think this is a great quote. Actually, I think it's a variation on the Harry Truman quote. And I don't remember his, but my friend told me changing presidents in our system is like changing the piano player in a whorehouse.
Go on.
No, I'll just let you think about that one for a minute. Let me help you.
Yeah.
Why does one go to a house like that? And what does that have to do with a piano player? Nothing.
You go to share
you
the
go
gospel.
for something. That's it.
I was going to say, hear the music. No,
it depends on what the piano player's playing. I would imagine.
No, that's good.
Yeah. So, and I think honestly, there's a lot of truth of that in our system. I think we've got a new piano player now that is a little different.
He's also a general contractor.
Yeah, he's probably going to turn it into casinos.
Yeah. That's great. Well, Don, we want to thank you for taking the time to come do this. But before we let you go, just want to ask, man, if especially as the chairman of the board, which sounds, that's kind of thing. That
sounds important when you say it.
Yeah, when I say it like that, it feels important. But maybe as the chairman, maybe as somebody who gets that kind of 30,000 foot view, if there's something you want to leave, some word of encouragement or wisdom or challenge that you want to leave to our graduates, our students, our audience, what would that be?
Well, I think everyone in this room has probably experienced being on fire for the Lord, going out and living the way we're called to live, loving God, loving people. But we've also experienced maybe some steps backwards. And I think probably everyone listening to this has done the same thing. And, whether it's hard times or bad choices, right? It's usually can go into one of those two categories. I'm tempted to say you might not be okay, but you're going to be all right. But we've already crossed that bridge.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of truth in that. And I would encourage you to remember who loves you. Remember, it's already been covered.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get back up and you keep moving forward. And also, I would like to say, the board needs help. We need voices from the graduates. So I'd also, and I'd like to give out my email address. I would love to hear from any graduate if they have any questions about what's going on at the board, or if they have ideas they'd like to float up to the board.
Yeah.
It's an open door.
That's cool.
So
That's cool. We can add that to the show notes. Yeah, we'll add that in there.
Oof.
Maybe not.
Yeah, probably not.
We will find
Your email address on YouTube or podcast
Might be a
description,
problem.
Yeah, that might be a bot.
If you're a Narragate graduate, you should know how to contact me.
Yeah, you can
And so
email-
call me or email me, and then I'll tell you how to
Yeah,
get a hold of
yeah.
Don.
however we do
Yeah.
it.
Or you can just email the ngpod@gmail.com.
There we go.
There you go. And forward them to me. And I'm serious about that. I want
Yeah.
to hear from people, because we're always looking for fresh ideas, and we're always wanting to answer any questions. If people are in the dark, they're going to see ghosts. Let's shine the light on it. So let me know if you have any questions from that.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, thanks again.
Yeah, you're awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you.
Love you, Don.
Thank you. On behalf of the board, thank you very much. Right, Colin?
That's right. On behalf of the board, thank you.
You want to
can
make a
say that
motion,
now.
Colin?
I motion that we end this podcast episode.
Can I second it? Is that what happens now?
That's
I
right.
second.
We have a second by a guest, and I need my mallet.
Yeah, we did it.
And this episode is over.